And welcome back. The African National Congress has announced that it has completed talks with all political parties that it will partner with in hung municipalities. The party says agreements will be based on adherence to the rule of law and the principles enshrined in the Constitution. In a statement, the ANC says its relationship with other political parties will bring together organizations who put people first. Its agreement with the IFP in KwaZulu-Natal will see the ANC govern in municipalities where it has the majority of seats, while the IFP will lead where it's the majority. The party's National Executive Committee is expected to convene this weekend to receive a report on the coalition talks, including an update on potential coalition agreements. Now, for more on this, we're joined by the ANC's national spokesperson, Pule Mabe. A very good evening to you, Mr. Mabe, and thank you so much for speaking to us. So, as I've mentioned, you're going to meet this weekend as the NEC to finalize talks. But from where you're sitting, do you think there's largely finality in your talks? And I mean, there have been questions around an agreement with the IFP on working together in KwaZulu-Natal, given what the IFP has said before. So is that a done deal, for instance? You will be working together with the IFP?
Well, evening, host SABC, and evening to your viewers. Of course, we have concluded those agreements. What we are doing this weekend is to make sure that those of our cadres, led by our Deputy Secretary General, Comrade Jesse Duarte, and our Treasurer General, Comrade Paul Mashatile, will then put forward a report to the National Executive Committee as it relates to the state of the coalition talks, and be able to then point out the kind of agreements that the ANC is concluding with the different parties. Where we are quite comfortable, and we must thank the parties that had agreed to engage with the ANC on the need to ensure that we create stable governments. We work together to root out corruption in the municipalities using various spheres of government. We submit to the principles enshrined in the Constitution of the Republic, but even ourselves as the ANC, making sure that we uphold the values of the African National Congress of non-racialism, non-sexism, and of building a truly democratic and united South Africa.
Speak to us about what is obviously happening behind closed doors, where there's a lot of room for conjecture. I mean, you've seen the media reports. Can you tell us if, as has been suggested, that it's the end of the road for talks with the economic freedom fighters? Is that the case, or is there still room for talks?
Well, in our own statement, we did reflect on the discourse we had with various political parties, including the economic freedom fighters. We appreciate the fact that parties had made that door open to engage with the ANC. We went into these talks clear in our minds that it is possible that we may not be able to strike or arrive at a consensus with certain parties. We could be able to do so with others. But the fact that we were able to engage with almost all political parties that participated in these local government elections, and those that would have made it with a view of wanting to form coalition governments, that on its own reflects the maturity of our own democracy. So we wouldn't really want to single this or that party.
Okay,
because
would the door be open?
Got their own programs.
Would the door be open for talks with
the African National Congress has never shut its door on engagements. It has always we went into these engagements with an open mind. We said that we are willing to engage with everyone who wants to contribute towards stable governments, governments that are transparent, governments that commit to the fulfillment of service delivery towards our people. After all, OSTP, the reason why we contest in local government elections is to be able to fulfill the promise we've made to our people, that of giving them a better life.
Okay. I want to hear your thoughts about some accusations laid against the ANC that you've abused your powers or abusing your powers. For instance, the DA's mayoral candidate in Umgeni, Chris Pappas, has accused the acting city manager there, Sandile Buthelezi, of refusing to call a meeting to allow him to be elected mayor, especially given the 14 days deadline. What is your response to that?
Well, it is quite unfortunate, and we must just state this, Ostsepi. The conduct of a city manager or a municipal manager at any other town in this country can never be linked to the African National Congress. The ANC will never give a municipal manager or those that run the affairs of council a blank check to undermine the democratic will of the people. The ANC, even in the past, where it could not garner sufficient support to be able to constitute government, it had gone out and occupied opposition benches, because we are not a disparate organization. So we must desist this notion that conduct of individuals are then linked to the ANC. The ANC is bigger than individuals. Where they are individuals who behave in a somewhat way that could otherwise be seen to be compromising or undermining the democratic will of the people, organizations must act against such individuals.
Okay.
That cannot be linked to the ANC, because there is no municipal manager who gets to be elected in the NEC of the ANC. We don't do that. We elect
Mr. Mabe, before
of the
we run out of
NEC,
time,
of the PEC and of RECs.
All right, before we run out of time, I'm going to paint a scenario for you. The situation in Maluti, Apofong, we've seen political parties there have reached an agreement in forming a coalition which will then push the ANC to opposition benches. Now, President Cyril Ramaphosa has said the party is prepared to contest new elections if some councils fail to prosper or at least reach an agreement. There is a view that having a rerun of elections will serve you better as the governing party because of conditions on the ground. What are your thoughts around this? Are you entertaining this? Is there room for a rerun of elections in those councils that you cannot find?
Well, because that option is provided for in law, it does. If there's an inability by parties to constitute government, that becomes an option. But where parties are able to agree and form government, those parties will be allowed to lead, even if it is not the African National Congress, because the ANC is never disparate to really occupy the seat of government. I mean, we do not exist for that. We opted for a multi-party democracy post-1994. And this means we had understood from that very point that the democratic will of the people could sometimes be in a way that the ANC does not necessarily emerge as a leading party. Together with many other liberation movements, when we fought for the liberation of the people of South Africa, we were not doing so that we could form a one-party state. We were doing so that people could be able to exercise their right to vote for parties of their own choices. So we are quite happy that many others have gone out to vote. Where we are able to form government, of course, we'll be humbled to do so. Where we must occupy opposition benches, will become a formidable opposition, representing the aspirations of our people and continuing to champion the desires of what is in our own manifesto. After all, Tsepiso, we are also leading many wards in these different municipalities. What does this mean? It means that even where there are hung municipalities, the budget that must be approved by council will have to service the many wards that have been led by the ANC in the country. This is what people must understand.
All right. Thank you very much, Pule Mabe, ANC's national spokesperson.